I can't believe that it's already been 5 years since the Spyro Reignited Trilogy released. I mean, 2018 was such a fun year predicting the announcement, to follow all of the news after it was announced, to eventually getting the games in my hand to finally experience them. Now that it has been 5 years, I wanted to speak on my thoughts regarding it now that I've played through these remakes over 10 times each game. I usually do yearly playthroughs of the original Spyro trilogy, but now I also play the Reignited version a whole lot more thanks to playing it on every console, and traveling a lot with it playing it on the Switch. So unlike my initial first impressions review from when I first got the chance to play through them thanks to Activision sending me a review copy a little bit before the release in 2018, this is mainly just my thoughts now that that aura of waiting for so long for it and finally getting it has worn off. I've been a fan of Spyro the Dragon my whole life, and to see the game get the remake treatment seemed so unreal, and I'm looking forward to what the future holds for the Purple Dragon, but for today, let's just spend some time talking about the Reignited Trilogy. Do I still feel the way I did about it when it came out, or has having all this time with it, getting to play through them over and over again, started to change my views on the game? So how this will work is I'm going to go over each game's remake in order and then my overall thoughts at the end. So let's start off with my personal favorite game in the franchise, Spyro the Dragon. There's a level of simplicity that this game offers over the following sequels that fills me with so much joy. You are told to rescue dragons and you traverse through the different worlds to do just that, while also collecting the gems. There isn't much more to it than that. The goals you have are clear and you're sent off to explore the different homeworlds and travel through the portals to other levels as you please to unlock the boss levels, all the way up to the big bad nasty Nork. There's little deviation from the gameplay aside from the flying levels, and if you love running through this game on a revisit, it's a quick stroll through memory lane that is fun, a bit cheesy with the dialogue, yet so rewarding by the end to enjoy your bonuses of completing the game fully. The way the game looks is incredible, keeping all the charm that the originals had. The skyboxes and background designs of each of the levels and homeworlds are truly breathtaking. It aids in these distinctive feeling areas that all feel like their own fully realized worlds. Spyro himself, along with all of the other character designs, feel like the actual transferred versions of what everyone and everything looked like coming from the PS1. I will talk about this in a moment, but obviously the biggest change to this was the dragons that you save, now having way more fleshed out and different designs from each other that offer their own personalities a chance to shine. I am blown away with how they handled interpreting a majority of how the enemies look in every world and making the different bosses of the homeworlds feel so much cooler than I ever imagined them to be, aside from still being extremely easy to defeat and not offering too much of a threat when facing them.
I've been waiting for this. Step your game up one time. Spyro.
The gameplay here is as tight as it can be with how basic the setup is. You're either charging, gliding, or breathing fire. You can use the dodge roll if needed, but really the only time I ever feel like I needed to is when I have to face the shepherd dogs specifically in the Toasty boss fight. It feels good to play, it's extremely responsive to the inputs, and just charging around as Spyro to bash through enemies and burning up all that you can with your flames just feels so satisfying. You need to stop Nasty Nork as he froze all of the adult dragons into green crystals, partly because he's evil, partly because he gets called a bunch of names on a news report by the dragons. So in the first game, there are 6 homeworlds you visit, albeit the final one I can't really consider on the same level as the previous 5, as it's honestly just a platform with a few portals on it, but let's talk about the different homeworlds in general. First, there is the iconic starting world of the Artisans. A beautiful and vivid color palette welcomes you to a world full of dragons, and the layout of it is fun to explore. While you can play the main set of portals in each world as you want, technically you want to start off with Stone Hill here, as it's great at teaching you that there are places to explore for gems, dragons, keys, and eggs outside of the box of where you think you can go, having a whole higher ground area where you face your first real egg thief, and a secret beach area to find the key needed for a chest back in the well in the starting area. Dark Hollow has one of my favorite themes, feeling like you're in the woods at night along with a small passageway that always put me on edge as a kid when having to face the 2 giant Norks blocking the path. Town Square is one of my favorite level loops in the series, as it feels so perfectly designed and has the right level of exploration for you to figure out how to get to the higher up part of the level to chase the egg thief around. There is also Sunny Flight, and I won't spend much time on any other flying levels, as to me, they aren't anything too crazy to write home about, but I love that for this one you have to unlock it by stepping on all the stones in front of the waterfall and discovering it on your own, or being told about it later on in the game to come back to. Toasty's boss fight world has one of the nicest skyboxes, and his look here is so cool as it is fun to watch the scarecrow fall apart and just become a sheep on stilts. Peacekeeper's homeworld feels like anything but keeping the peace, having to deal with squads of well-trained or cowardice butt-flashing Norks. Dry Canyon is a decent world that is another almost full loop with multiple ways to tackle collecting everything and facing every enemy. Cliff Town is one of my personal favorites just because it's really fun to run through the two small town areas and make the climb up the cliff just to make the long glide across the way to get to the open desert cliffside. Ice Cavern has one of the nicest aesthetics in the whole game, and I am never one to love snow or ice-based levels, but the multiple different ways to play through this level make it a blast every time. Night Flight is just fine, it's a flying level, and of course the boss fight here with Dr. Shemp is a small but fun level that lets you burn the buns off this dancing fella. Magic Crafters allows the homeworld to be more dynamic, having to face different pockets of enemies to get to other parts of the world, with all the levels fitting into where they make the most sense. Alpine Ridge relies on these larger gaps to traverse to make your way through it, but I love that the beasts here are shown to be given Wumpa fruits to eat as a nod to Crash Bandicoot. High Caves has a pretty cool layout with an area that doesn't let you die unfairly when using the super jumps to make it to other points of the world, and who can forget having to deal with the spiders that seem much more menacing than they did on the PS1. But the super flame you get, or the fast speeds you build up, offer a fun way to take them out. Wizard Peak is one where I either really enjoy going through or feel a bit fatigued to finish every time thanks to the layout of it feeling a bit annoying to go through sometimes. Crystal Flight is fine, and Blowhard is an easy tornado-based boss to face, but he's very easy to beat with the level feeling more memorable than the battle. Beastmakers has a homeworld vibe that feels like the spooky and mysterious swampland that I always envisioned the original to look like, with some of the level really raising the difficulty in terms of what it takes to conquer them. Terrace Village is a lot of fun to run through pretty quickly and has some fun dragons to encounter as you save them. Misty Bog gets the prize for most terrifying enemies, with the dragon-eating plants quickly coming at you to eat you, and the attack frogs having their own death room that will put your attacking and dodging skills to the test. Treetops needs no introduction, being one of the most memorable levels in all of Spyro thanks to the layout of the level, using speedways and ramps to reach higher and further away areas to complete it. It's easy to get turned around in this level or constantly try to remember which paths combine together to get to certain areas, but it's always so much fun to play. Wild Flight is more flying, and Metalhead is a cool boss to face, knocking out the rods when they turn green and avoiding them when they turn red. It's simple, but the level itself to play is really fun. Dreamweavers is the most different homeworld where traversal around it will require several steps to really get anywhere, and the enemies have the shrinking and growing mechanic that can easily get in the way. Dark Passage is a small but fun level that can be charming or terrifying depending on when the cute animals get turned into these large scary beasts that you'd rather avoid than have to deal with. Lofty Castle is a gorgeous level, but the amount of times I've played through it, I'm just tired of all the different areas you have to make it to for full completion. It's not bad, but it always slows things down on constant replays. Haunted Towers can be that way a bit too. You know, it looks awesome, but my enjoyment of playing through it at this point in a playthrough starts to feel a bit sluggish. Icy Flight is just another flying level to get out of the way, and the Jacques boss fight is another really easy one that relies more so on the level itself being more interesting than the final boss encounter is. And finally, there's Nasty's World, where there are only a few portals to access to finish up the game. Nork Cove is fine. I don't love it for the same reasons of playing through it so many times, and making your way through it doesn't feel as smooth as the previous levels in the game do. And then we get to the final level before the boss, and that's Twilight Harbor, which look, I get that Toys for Bob does have their reasons for changing up this level a bit, taking away the military force feel that this level is supposed to have, and taking out the weapons and replacing them with Splatoon feeling ones, but to me, it completely changes the feeling of the level. And that's that dire threat that you're supposed to feel here. The last force before you go and meet Nasty. It loses that feeling thanks to the enemies being a lot less of a menacing threat. So while playing this level is fine, the enemies become the low point. But now it's time for the final fight in the game, getting to face off against Nasty Nork in 3 different stages of the level. First, having to avoid his attacks as you chase some thieves to get the keys to unlock part 2, where you chase down Nasty through a twisting course to catch him for the final platforming chase as the surfaces you land on slowly pull back into the walls over lava to dodge his final attacks and defeat him. Then, if you complete the game fully, you get access to the bonus level, Nasty's Loot, where you get the freedom to fly around higher and higher depending on you unlocking the next height to reach, taking out a few remaining enemies and collecting the final handful of gems, leading to the most satisfying room in the game full of so many gems to collect. The biggest highlight and benefit that the game offers is seeing all the attention to detail on the dragons themselves. The level of care in designing them all to look and feel unique was an incredible undertaking, and something I'm glad that Toys for Bob went out of their way to develop. While the dialogue can either be helpful, meaningful, or just a simple thank you, each of the dragons feels so nicely designed to fit into the homeworlds that they're from. The artisans are artists in various forms, the peacekeepers are tough and battle ready, the magic crafters feel magical, the beast makers feel more relaxed and chill, and the dreamweavers feel the most mythical in their designs and concepts. It makes the worlds feel purposeful and lived in by these dragons, and it truly is a treat to rescue them all. Overall, the remake of Spyro the Dragon is a beautiful love letter to the original game, offering new life in places that surely benefited from it, with minimal changes that I personally don't love. I am in awe with how great this game came out, and despite my fatigue in some of the later levels, I love playing through this game the most out of the three with how simple, easy, and quick it is to do so.
Now that's my idea of fun.
I know that Ripto's Rage for a lot of people is their absolute favorite from the original trilogy, and I can certainly understand why. It elevates what a Spyro game can be, spending time fleshing out the villain, adding in supporting characters that offer a fun group dynamic, and adds more features that Spyro can unlock or use. The look of the game is on par with the first game, the graphics are incredible, and the atmosphere of the different levels, and especially the homeworlds, are nearly unmatched. More so than anything, I loved the second homeworld, Autumn Plains, the most since I love the fall vibes and especially the music. And everyone's favorite fawn is here, and I feel it made more people question if they were a furry or not. As for the gameplay, it just feels like an even tighter version of the first game, now adding in some more mechanics to the gliding to reach certain ledges, and an enemy point bonus to unlock stuff like free flying around levels for a certain amount of time, or special flame abilities for a limited amount of time, or instant speed boosting for running, or heck, even shielding so you can walk on lava for a limited amount of time. While gems are still collected, this time the enemies count as these spirit-looking points that help you get these power-ups, giving the player a solid purpose to want to take down all the enemies, even if they aren't just gems to collect now for them. Now, this game only has 3 main homeworlds compared to the first, but each homeworld is expanded upon in these vast areas with plenty of levels within them. You start off in Summer Forest as Spyro gets pulled into a land without dragons as Ripto starts trying to take over the land. You meet Alora, Hunter, and the Professor as you'll have to help them defeat this threat and help get yourself back home. Summer Forest is a very peaceful opening area, getting to explore the grounds outside of the castle. Being in water can no longer hurt you like it did in the first game, and not too long into your adventure, you'll be unlocking a way to swim through it, which feels great to explore, and the controls navigating it are pretty fun. Okay, technically you don't start off in Summer Forest, but rather in one of the levels there, and that's Glimmer. That's where the portal or gateway first brings you, so the European title of Gateway to Glimmer makes a lot of sense here. Glimmer is a nice opening level, getting you used to the changes in how to deal with enemies and earn talismans for completing each world, or just running through it will grant you them anyway before you leave, but you'll want to do anything and everything you can before you leave the level, with most times having certain things you can't access just yet, as you'll unlock other features down the road that will require you to backtrack to certain levels to complete them. Another thing you'll come across right away is Moneybags, a gem-hungry bear who doesn't have the best moral compass. He always was hated in the original, and he's still hated here, but luckily for all the shady stuff he does, in the end of this game and in the third, he does get what's coming to him. The next 2 levels I have played so many times that I always dread having to play through them again, not because they're hard or bad or anything, but I've just played them so many times that they aren't too exciting for me. Idle Springs is a fine level that has some easy challenges to do on the side, but the character design of the evil idols here are what's truly great. Colossus lost a little bit of its charm in translation when it came to little things like the chant of the monks not being the same, but as a level and its design, it's still really solid. The orb challenges aren't too hard, and it's still just a level that helps you get into what this Spyro game can offer, with level traversal and challenges to complete. Hurricos ups the difficulty a bit more, challenging your timing with platforming and making you realize that not every orb is going to be super easy to collect. It does have this really beautiful dark and rainy skybox setting that helps set it apart from all the other levels in the game, and for that, I always love visiting this level. Sunny Beach is still a bit annoying trying to get the baby turtles through the level, having to force these heavier turtles onto buttons to unlock gate, and how many times do I have to teach this chef a lesson to stop trying to entice turtles to jump into the soup to their death? Aquaria Towers was one of the levels that I looked forward to the most before playing through the remakes for the first time, as the internal part of the level is great and all, but the moment you go outside into this open area of water, it just looks incredible, and the atmosphere here is so serene. While maybe more could have been done with what we see in the distance, it still overall looks great. The flying level here, or the Speedway, offers more of the same in terms of completing it, but this game also adds a special bonus of doing something with Hunter to earn an orb. I feel the same as the flying levels in the first game, and the Hunter challenges within these speedways for the most part can also be their own level of aggravating. To end off the first homeworld, we have a boss fight with Crush, one of Ripto's pet-like minions, and this one is a walk in the park. It's not that hard, but it's at least a fun one that gets Ripto on the run to realize how much of a threat a small purple dragon can be. The next homeworld, Autumn Plains, gets you further into the castle, getting to explore the open area outside behind the castle, various hallways throughout the castle, and even reaching the highest points of the castle to enjoy one of the best glides Spyro can take. Skelos Badlands is the big level of the game, being the one put up most in advertisements, and the level is just as iconic as ever. The skeleton you find the bones for flosses for his victory dance, and the dino egg hatching challenge to save the villagers still has a level of challenge to it in its second wave. I've never been the cheerleading ultimate fan of this level, but I do like the aesthetics of it. Also, what even is a cat bat, you know? Crystal Glacier is a pretty solid level that has one of the cutest orb challenges in it, as you go and get a snow leopard named George and bring him back to his owner, and it also has one of my least favorite and most aggravating challenges with having to fly around a loop of caves to take out these spiders, but your hit detection on them from your fire breathing is hit or miss if it actually connects or not, and doing it perfect on the first go around is something I simply struggle with. Breeze Harbor is a classic. The level layout is fun and a bit goofy, but of course it has the trouble with the trolley challenge that still causes a lot of people frustration these days. Over time, I think it's pretty easy to master, and I know the layout and timing of things really well, but I've played the game so many times it's probably not fair for me to call it easy. The reverse end of this level is Zephyr, showing the other side of the war that the land blubbers have with the breeze builders from Breeze Harbor. This level really feels like a battleground and the birds are ready to attack you, but there are a ton of orb challenges here that are a drag to get through. There are 2 parts to getting these cowlicks back to their pen, and then 2 stages of spitting out seeds to create beanstalks to platform your way up to a bird named Juliet that a blubber named Romeo needs help getting freed. Scorch itself is a pretty solid level that introduces the odd pair of children, Handel and Greta, that are secret agents and have scary glowing eyes for some reason. There's also Bomo the Flag Keeper, who was changed to just being called Bob the Flag Keeper here, and I think that these 3 races to the end of the level while dodging his attacks are way easier than the original game's version of it. I still hate the Barrel of Monkeys orb challenge though. It's not that hard, it's just annoying. Speaking of annoying orb challenges, Magma Cone is a pretty cool level and it looks great in the Reignited Trilogy, but my god, the Crystal Popcorn orb challenges against Hunter here are still so annoying to complete. The crystals sometimes don't register when they are grabbed, and you just feel like you're running around like a mad dragon trying to steal them first from Hunter. I thought Hunter was supposed to be the one on your side, but this whole game he just somehow has these orbs, and you can't get them until you do whatever BS he has you do or has you compete against him for. Fracture Hills is another beautifully designed level. It looks great, has a really unique setting, but the challenges here with helping the alchemist get to Hunter to free him and then working with Hunter to destroy them are nonsense. At least for the alchemist part, there's a free, clear path to walk over to Hunter, but instead he has to go on this annoying path where you have to save him from all these earth shapers as he zigs and zags in any direction but the one you want him to go in. Shady Oasis is just a cool setting. I like the hippos you help out, and the orb challenges are fun. The level looks great for the Reignited Trilogy overall. There are 2 flying speedways in this area, with the first being Metro Speedway, which has one of my least favorite orb challenges, trying to catch all these bags after the cat burglars drop them, and then there's Icy Speedway, which has the worst orb challenge of paragliding through 50 rings that aren't as easy as they sound to just fly through. Lastly here is the Gulp boss fight, and for some reason the difficulty spike is on another level. Even after so many playthroughs, the Reignited Trilogy version of this boss battle is just brutal in comparison to all the others. It really just isn't fair half the time, and I never look forward to it for that reason. The final area of the game is Winter Tundra, where you build up the remaining orbs you may need to go and face Ripto. There are only a few levels though here, with the first being Mystic Marsh, and since things are all orb based here, the challenges tend to be a bit longer or more challenging. Aside from dealing with the hard to catch kangaroo thieves, the Professor Fetch quest is just silly for the sake of being silly, having you run around the map trading one item for another until you end up with the pencil that he needs returned. Cloud Temples is a really fun level though, from the looks to the challenges. I think it was nailed here. Also, getting the Super Freeze power-up so that you can turn these little fireball trolls into blocks of ice to jump on is a really fun thing to do, and then following Agent Zero to his secret hideout is always a classic don't get caught following mission, and I just love his dialogue. Robotica Farms looks great, but I have tired of playing through it. The level isn't bad at all though, and I feel the same with Metropolis. It's a great aesthetic, funny enemies, and some interesting orb challenges, but at this point in the playthrough, I am tired of running through these specific levels. The last Speedway flying level is fine, the challenge isn't overly hard, but it can be if you're not quick enough. After all that though, it's time to face Ripto, and this is a great boss battle fight that starts off on the ground, just you against Ripto, then against him in a robot version of Gulp before you take to the skies as the ground collapses into a lava pit and Ripto is riding a mechanical bird around. It's a power-up battle with the orbs of different colors giving you or Ripto certain powers that are fun to trade blows back and forth at each other. In the end, for all your efforts of saving the kingdom, you'll get access to Dragon Shores so you can finally get that vacation you've been wanting. And it comes with its own set of little challenges like shooting at targets, a dunk tank, a tunnel of love that often provides odd or funny results, a movie theater to relive the cutscenes, and a roller coaster where you have a couple rounds of avoiding obstacles and shooting balloons. And if you complete the game fully, you get a bonus unlock that benefits your next playthrough of the game. The game now adds in the collecting of orbs, which are similar to rescuing dragons as they become a factor that unlocks more areas and can be earned by either finding where they are hidden in homeworlds or earned from smaller challenges in the game itself. Now, some of them are way harder to acquire than others, with the game offering a larger degree of challenge at certain moments, whether you're having trouble with the trolley or trying to stop the gear grinder thieves. All orb challenges are not built the same. This was a great idea to add a lot more to the gameplay, and the level of difficulty to earn some of them is really unchanged from the original. If anything, some may be even way easier. This one will have the completion factor inside of you wanting to get them all anyway, as at the end with Dragon Shores, for completing the game fully, you'll unlock Super Flame permanently, meaning if you start up a new playthrough of the second game, you can enjoy the entire experience again with the Super Flame ability, and it makes it so much more fun to face the game this way as a treat. Overall, Ripto's Rage is what a sequel should be. It improves on so much that you'd actually want, giving you a whole lot more to do, ramping up the difficulty in some places, having a story that goes a little deeper than the last, and offering some new gameplay mechanics to freshen things up. My only real drawback is that this is where Spyro starts to become a very backtracking based game. Some parts of levels or even areas in homeworlds won't be accessible until you learn a certain move that you can go back to those parts and use, like swimming, climbing, and head bashing. It's not that backtracking is a bad thing, I just personally hate that I can't complete everything the first time I enter an area and have to wait to head back. Luckily, the fast travel system in the game to click on a level I want to go back to instantly makes it not feel as bad as I may be making it seem. But Ripto's Rage is the perfect example of how to build up a sequel, and the remake of it does a great job at keeping those same feelings and implementations that the original had.
Follow Spyro as he searches for the missing dragon egg.
Oh no, the dragon eggs have been stolen!
The last game in the trilogy takes all of what Spyro and Spyro Ripto's Rage did and tries to elevate the game even further. Not just from a base gameplay perspective, but in the addition of other playable characters like Sheila, Sergeant Bird, Bentley, Agent 9, Hunter, and even Sparks gets some time to shine. When it comes to the graphics on this one, it looks noticeably different from the other two when it comes to the levels and the extended cast of characters and enemies, thanks to the help from Sanzaru jumping in to help Toys for Bob develop it. It has this quality and shading to it that literally looks like it's from a Pixar film. It's honestly mind-blowing at some parts. This doesn't mean that the other two games look bad, and far from it. It's just that this game noticeably has a slightly different style in some aspects. Gameplay-wise, Spyro is pretty maxed out here on what he can do, only really seeing some new things here and there for stuff like him being able to skateboard. And going into the remake, I was nervous with how this part of the game would handle, but for the most part, it plays just like how it did on the PS1. It's a bit wonky to control at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty fun. Sheila is all about her foot power, being able to hop really high up in the air to reach certain areas, and has a powerful kick to take out enemies. Sergeant Bird, my favorite add-on character, controls on this kind of stagnant up, down, forward, and back design. So for the most part, you're just kind of hovering in the air going in these directions, but you have the ability to shoot rockets and pick up or drop things with his feet, and I think it's personally really fun to play. Bentley is the slowest to control, but at least he's pretty powerful thanks to his club, and Agent 9 is a mixed bag of playing in third third person or first person, and it still feels as awkward to control as it did in the original. And I mean that in the most enjoyable sense though, funny enough. Hunter you really only control for the bonus missions within the flying race challenges, and they are okay to control. And then there is Sparks, who has his own series of special bonus missions where it becomes a top-down shooting range as you try to avoid getting hit by the enemies while you take them out and or complete some simple tasks to progress through the area. The game starts off with all the dragons and Hunter all just napping around with a bunch of dragon eggs laying around them when a bunny named Bianca comes from the Forgotten Realms to capture all the dragon eggs for the sorceress. This leads Spyro and Hunter to follow her and start collecting the eggs back. The first homeworld is Sunrise Spring, and it's a really cool area that has a small forest and a nice lake to explore. You can meet Sheila here first, where she is locked up since the sorceress had money bags make sure that these other characters don't get out of their cage, unless you pay a small fee, of course. Her level is called Sheila's Alps, and it serves as a way to learn how to play as her character, as will the other levels be when it comes to the other side playable characters. Sunny Villa is a good introduction level for the game though, as you get your bearings as Spyro, and a bonus area for you to get your bearings on a skateboard. But on top of that, having another special area for Sheila to come in and take over helping. Cloud Spires is a level that truly blew me away visually. There is just something about it all that I love, and I enjoy sending in these cool sun seeds together so they can form a nice bright sun. Molten Crater has this odd Indiana Jones feel to it that makes it pretty fun, along with some special speed tracks to catch some really fast egg thieves, and Sergeant Bird has a mission here too, but that plays into the backtracking that this game has to an even larger degree than the last game in my opinion. Seashell Shores is a really fun level, and it looks incredible here. Sheila's help is needed for a side challenge, and there's even a mini-boss against Bluto and his shark submarine. Mushroom Speedway starts your racing journey, and I'll be honest, the more I play these races, the less fun I have with them. They only get more annoying and sometimes more difficult by the end, as you have to not miss the speed boosts and get rockets to hit the target in front of you. These stages also have your regular time trial stuff, and even have special challenges for Hunter and his alien fighting conquest. They are usually okay, but again, I'm not the biggest fan of them compared to doing anything else in the game. Sparks' special mission is Crawdad Farms, and I do enjoy these moments with Sparks. The power-ups are fun, and it's a nice gameplay change. The first boss battle of the game is with Buzz, and it's super easy, but so satisfying to knock him into the lava and have Sheila ground pound him even further into it. Midday Gardens as a homeworld is very nice and has a solid runaround loop to it, and here you can unlock Sergeant Bird and his level Sergeant Bird's base. As you then start going through the levels like Enchanted Towers, which gives you a really cool way to play through part of it with having access to essentially the whole open level as Sergeant Bird to help complete some things around the map. There's another skate park here and another flossing skeleton because why not, right? Plus you can help a pet wolf named Farley get back to his owner. This one is a lot less fun than the last game's version of it. Icy Peak has a solid layout with lots of secrets to explore, and the challenges have you do some more chasing of the egg thieves on a crazier course, and also protecting Nancy, who is doing her ice skating routine to win the admiration from the audience. You just have to stop the hockey player Rhinox from getting to her and beating her up. It's not super hard, but I am tired of protecting her while she performs her routine. Spooky Swamp is still a level I dread playing. Sure, it has a cool vibe to it and you get another mini boss battle here, this time with Sleepyhead, but it has the worst 2 escort missions of all time, helping these twins as Sheila so they can get these bombs across this one area, and you have to stomp on mushrooms and bash rocks that are in the way, not going too far ahead for them to reappear in their way, or not wait too long as they will still get stopped. These challenges sucked back then, and they still suck now. Bamboo Terrace is great. I like the challenges here, and the color on this level really pops. I think it's one of the best looking in the game. Again, there's another Speedway, Country Speedway, along with another Hunter challenge that are meh, and another level for Sparks, Spider Town, to get some more time with just him. The next boss you face is Spike, and he may just be the easiest boss battle in a Spyro game, and Sergeant Bird is there to help you out as well. Appreciate the assist, but it really is not needed here. Evening Lake is my favorite homeworld in Spyro Year of the Dragon. It looks incredible here in the Reignited Trilogy, and the mix of land and underwater traversal is just plain out fun. Plus there's a whale that you can let eat you to find an egg inside, so that should sell you on it being awesome alone. Here you will find Bentley and his level Bentley's Outpost, where you help out his younger brother Bartholomew, and he's a little punk who makes you do everything for him, especially in the level Frozen Altars, which by itself is a decent level. It's It's fun to fry up those evil-looking snowmen with a magnifying glass, but it's the bonus stuff that makes it annoying. The big one there being the 2 fights against a Yeti that Bartholomew pressures you to fight since he claimed that the Yeti took his ball. So now you have to box him, and the controls for this and the unfair timer and computer-controlled character leave you with nothing but frustration or really sore fingers. Take your pick. Lost Fleet is a pretty solid level from a design perspective, though having to use a power-up to travel through the acid to find some eggs can be a bit disorienting. The races against the Rhinoc and then Hunter are okay. They may take several attempts to get the hang of things before you actually take them down, but compared to the endgame version of this, I'll take this one every time. Fireworks Factory is the titular level here and it looks fantastic, but it does have a handful of challenges that can make it frustrating to complete. And I'm not even talking about the Agent 9 missions, I mainly mean the Twin Dragon fight, where you have to hit the twin dragons to make them lose parts of their body, but they can grow back if you're not hitting them fast enough. It's easier to focus on one at a time, but it really is just so time consuming and annoying that I don't have that much fun playing it anymore. Also, Handel and Greta are back, and you can take that as you will. Charmed Ridge is pretty cute. There's a long, but not too bad Beanstalk side challenge, and Sergeant Bird has a decent little witch fight. But the most memorable thing here is that the fairy princess of this level leaves on a flying motorcycle with the wizard cat prince. Honey Speedway and Hunter's Challenge in this once again are meh, and Sparks has another level called Starfish Reef that I do enjoy. Scorch is the boss fight here, and he's not too difficult either. And that's a running theme with the bosses in general this time around for the third Spyro game. The last homeworld is Midnight Mountain. It has this great, easy to follow layout and has some really cool levels within it. There is Agent 9 in his level Agent 9's lab, where the professor comes in to help get them all set up with his skills using a blaster. Crystal Islands has one of the best looking aesthetics in the game. It comes along with a fun slide like in Mario 64 to go down, and even a decent flying around challenge, but it does have the dreaded whack-a-mole challenge with Bentley that is no less frustrating to play than it was in the original. Desert Ruins has a really nice look to it all, and has a fun Tomb Raider reference by the level's end and a special underwater mission to cool off from the hot desert. Haunted Tombs is probably one of my favorites from a theming perspective. It also has a smaller version of the slide here as well, but it does have the tank challenges, which until you just figure out the perfect movement to navigate hitting the enemies first before they can hit you, can make it seem pretty difficult, but once you get it, it really isn't that hard. Dino Mines has a cool setting and I really like the enemies, but the challenges here are okay. They aren't bad or super hard, they're just kind of meh after playing them so many times, and the slight changes with the dinosaurs and weapons used here does make it lose some of the level's original charm. There's Harbor Speedway, and I think it's the worst one out of them all, and the Hunter mission is okay for what it was. And lastly, there is the final Sparks challenge, Bug Out Factory, a fun last challenge with the Dragonfly. Then you get the Sorceress boss fight, which is slightly more challenging than the previous boss fights in the game, but it's not all that hard, and technically you don't really defeat her. There's a bonus set of things to do for completionists out there before we get to really finish her off in a fight. I just want to say though that the character arc of Bianca, going from this evil character who didn't really know the true intent of the Sorceress's plans to this helpful great addition to the main cast of Spyro characters and becoming a romantic interest for Hunter, is truly nice to see, and I enjoy it every time I play through the game, and I believe they did it justice here in the remake, giving them a chance to enjoy their relationship before Hunter, Spyro, and some of the others have to go start their shift at Subway. Don't look that up. The super bonus round to end things off has you taking out thieves, submarines, UFOs, and also the worst and most broken race in the game against the Sasquatch 6. It's fast, it often has a lot of glitches or unfair mechanics get in the way, and it's not fun in the remakes. The original plays a lot better, but here, this has needed a patch and hasn't received it. Then, at the end, you get to face off against the Sorceress one more time in a much harder fight than the last, as you chase each other on your flying saucers so you can defeat her again and get the 150th and final dragon egg, which happens to be twins. The worlds here have some of the best designs in the whole series, but the game gets held back from a mix of things that were the same as they were back in the day, and that's why it's my least favorite of the three games. But some problems are new and from changes made to the game, or not being able to nail down certain recreations mechanic-wise. And they only have grown more noticeable for me since I have constantly been playing through the games to experience these issues over and over again. But now gone are the orbs, but back are dragons. Kind of. Your goal is to collect all of the stolen eggs, and each one of the dragons that hatches doesn't have too much difference to them individually since they're all babies. But I've always enjoyed that they each have names. games. It makes saving every one of them a little bit more special, but there isn't anything too special about saving them outside of just saving them, whether they are hidden or not so hidden in the homeworlds or scattered throughout the levels and challenges. Spyro Year of the Dragon can be seen by many as the best version of Spyro with a large array of stylized levels to play, things to do, and a story that brings in a new fan favorite character, but I think that compared to the first and second game, it may be my least favorite. But in saying that, I still love it. It's more Spyro, there's more to do, and that's all great. I just enjoy it a little bit less than the other two entries, and that's okay. The addition of new characters to play as was cool, and I think it's a nice concept to play with if it were to be continued or expanded on in the future. But just like the last game, my biggest thing I don't like is the backtracking. I never have fun revisiting levels just to finish off doing one or two small things I couldn't do before, and thanks to the new characters, it's a lot more noticeable just how many things I have to wait to unlock to then come back and do. There's also a few low points like the races, where the final bonus race was practically broken from the release and still is to this day. It's not impossible to beat, but man, when it doesn't work, it truly doesn't work. In the end, I absolutely love Spyro to death, and these remakes do an incredible job at recreating the same feelings that the originals did when I first played them. They look and play just how I've always dreamt the originals would if they were made in a more modern day. Regardless how you may feel about how they changed Spyro in the years between the original and the remakes with stuff like the New Beginning trilogy or the Skylander series, for me, it was just incredible to see the version of Spyro I grew up with come to life in this way. At some points, I think it looks like a top-of-the-line animated feature film, and that still blows my mind. While I don't love every single change made to the game to update it for whatever personal reasons the team working on it had, there is still so much love poured into these remakes that had people who grew up with the originals working on them. It truly was not an easy feat to recreate the magic the originals had, and I commend everyone who worked on it with my highest appreciation for loving the series as much as I do. There's still a handful of glitches or moments in the gameplay that get a little wonky, but overall it's a solid offering that now has given myself, every other fan, and all newcomers a chance to fully experience the series in a brand new way. I love it, despite these few things I particularly didn't enjoy or didn't think were great decisions, but at the end of the day, those are just my opinions on it, and I can only imagine what comes next for Spyro. It's been cool to see his world clash with Crash Bandicoot some more with both CTRs, Crash Team Racing and Crash Team Rumble, but I think it's time for Spyro to get his next real sequel game. Not another remake, a full-on new game sequel, just like what Crash Bandicoot did with Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. My favorite thing about the remakes though probably is the music and having the ability to hear the new dynamic arrangements or switch to the original soundtrack, both offering a truly magical experience to the game. It was something I predicted that they would do a few months before the game came out, and they officially announced it would be possible to do that not long after my video on it. If I didn't mention it too much in this video, I used to be a Spyro-based YouTuber in 2017 and 2018, and made hundreds of videos from news to theories and so much more all about Spyro, and I am very nostalgic for those times. And in the eyes of the Akinator, I'm still a Spyro YouTuber. I am grateful that I was able to be there for these games being remade, and while I don't love Activision as a company for the amount of things they do business-wise, especially post the launch of Spyro, I am thankful that I was able to go to E3 in 2018 and get to go to a private Spyro showcase, was given a special announcement Spyro egg that teased the game being announced, was there at PAX East when it was announced and then got my Spyro tattoo the same day, and in the end, receive a review copy of the game before it came out. But this look back or review is not held to the review copy standard from 5 years ago. I have purchased the game several times over and want to be transparent in that fact implicitly, as these are just my thoughts as a diehard fan of the games. So now I wait in excitement for what comes next for Spyro the Dragon. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, whether you just played it for the first time or played it many times since it released. Also, let me know your thoughts on what you want to see from a brand new sequel. What could be exciting to you in a true Spyro 4? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.